Alright, well now we're going to do the final assembly. Again, make sure everything here looks right and it's working, that the hammer is working, the safety's working, everything's working the way it should before you get to the next step, because it'd be a shame to take all this apart. Again, these little pieces of masking tape won't hurt anything there. You could take them off if they bother you. Now, we got to put the frame back to the barrel. There's a lug right here. It's an undercut lug, and that's going to go into this lug here. And just make sure that the hammer is back, and I don't know if you can see it, but that little hammer spur, or that connector that really provides the spring force forward, has to be over the top of that pin in the back. You can kind of see it there. Okay, so we slide this back on, and now we're going to have to provide some force to put it down. Now you can see the frame really goes well over the top of the barrel, and so I'm going to have to hit it back here. And again, you want it on a good solid surface as you can. This is a little bit spongy, and I may have to swing it around here and put it on the floor just to see how that works. Bear with me a minute. Alright, so now what I'm going to do, put it on the floor, give it a wrap there. That feels a little bit better. Get my dial calipers. And remember, I had 55 to 60 thousandths before. So now I'm measuring 70 thousandths, so I've got it too far. So now I've got to tap it back the other way a little bit. Yep, probably took that too far. Measuring again. Nope, 30 thousandths. Nope, 40 thousandths. 42. 65. It goes back and forth very often like this. Well, that says 60. That's close, but it may not be close enough. But the way to test it is to take this assembly pin and see if it goes through everything. And it does. Okay, so we're in business. Alright, so we've got close to what our original dimension was, which was 55 to 60 thousandths, and I'm getting 60 thousandths, but the real test is this pin goes in through the top. So that means it should go in through the bottom. Okay, so now it's a matter of getting the hammer in the back position. And so I don't know if you can see it in here, but the hammer is back. You should be able to see it pretty flush in there. It's not sticking up. And that little connector link is hanging over the top of that pin on the back. So at this point in time, the bolt assembly ought to slide right in. And it does. But one other little trick before I put the bolt assembly in, and that is this pin, as it comes in through the bottom, again has to go through 3 holes. A hole here and the 2 holes there. It also needs to go through the back part of this. So this little piece is a little stamping, and it's stamped, and so one side of it can have a burr on it and the other side can be rounded off a little bit. So there's a couple of things you can do. One, you can just take this thing out and flip it over. There's a smooth side and rough side. Mine's been filed, so the rough side's gone, but you want the smooth side down so that as this pin tries to pass past it, it won't snag on a burr or a sharp edge. So you can either file it off or make sure the rough side is up, and that has to go back in and centered under very light pressure so that that's sitting in there. So now with the bolt assembled properly, you can just slide this in, and that's all the way in. Now we're going to have to take this assembly, and this thing is turned a little bit, so it might be a good idea to take the wrench and put it under slight amount of pressure just to make sure this little cutout stays to the back as it's facing this way. Actually, as we assemble it, it's going to be toward the front. So again, you push this down, this goes up, and boy, that's the easiest it's ever gone up there, all the way. Now, alright, we're going to try the bolt assembly again. I think I know what I was doing wrong. Again, the hammer is down, flat, it passes right through, got plenty of room for the bolt assembly. And now we have to point it down. You can see that the hammer is back here. We have to pull the trigger and let the hammer fall forward all the way. I don't know if it's easy to see there, but the hammer is now laying in the fired position. So with that, we can now take the bolt or the spring mechanism and put it in there. And it's pushing all the way through, and it's protruding about 1/8 of an inch over the top, so that's good. Now we also have to look down in here to make sure we can see that little connector link. And the connector link is there, but it's got to be hanging down. So the way you make it hang down is you turn the whole thing vertical. And I may not get this on camera, but I can see that the link is hanging approximately straight down. So the link will ultimately go into that little pocket right there in the mainspring housing mechanism. And as I put this in, I should start to feel just a moderate amount of resistance right there. I can feel a little spring pressure. I have to keep this upward, otherwise it won't. There we go. Feel a little spring pressure there, and close it and latch it. And if it's all done right, I should be able to pull this back, and it did come back, and if I can fire it, it's correct. Again, pull it back. No need for the magazine disconnect anymore because the parts are laying over the bench, so we don't have that. But the slide, we can try the slide pull with a magazine in there. It does lock it back. This lever drops it. So now we have a Mark III with the installation of the kit complete. The only thing left to do at this point is reinstalling the grips, but I don't think it's necessary to show that on the video. but that's a complete assembly.